edition of the Show. Obviously, you've all heard that Trump has been convicted of all counts. You all know that I predicted that in my book, Get Trump. I predicted it days before the verdict. I predicted it when the verdict came down today, but before we knew what the result was. As soon as the jurors said that they needed time to check off the boxes, it was clear to me that that meant a conviction. This is a very sad day for American justice. I have now added one banana to my usual banana republic grouping. We're up to 7 or 8 at this point. And it's a worse day for America than it actually is for Donald Trump. Don't know what the impact will be on Trump. Don't know what it'll be on his electoral prospects. He's probably not going to get jail time. And if he does, it would be stayed pending appeal. I don't know whether the case will be reversed on appeal. Sir, I don't think it would be reversed by the appellate division. These are judges who are terrified of being perceived of as helping Trump in any way. Don't know whether or not the New York Court of Appeals in Albany will have the ability to not consider the impact it will have on individuals as judges. Surely the Supreme Court wouldn't, but that's a way off, and there wouldn't be a decision by the Supreme Court, probably before the election. This is still the weakest case I've ever seen in 60 years. The fact that the jury convicted based on false instructions, wrong instructions, based on the jurors having been between 85 and 90% picked from a veneer that hates Trump and doesn't want him to be president. The fact that the jury convicted doesn't make this case any stronger or any better. I was recently, just 15 minutes ago, on with the Times of London, and they were saying, well, doesn't the fact that the jury convicted prove that it was a strong case? No, it proves that it was a case that was brought in a jurisdiction where a conviction was almost assuredly guaranteed. In the South, when they convicted black people improperly with an all-white jury, or acquitted white people improperly with an all-white jury, that didn't mean that those convictions were correct. It just meant that the jury didn't reflect the values of our country. It reflected the values of a particular region of the country. In this case, the region is a liberal region, New York. In the southern cases, the region was the conservative region of the South. But juries are imperfect, and juries represent the biases of individuals. We do live in the age of Trump syndrome, of people can't not talk rationally about Donald Trump any more than they can talk rationally about Israel or about some other subjects. Trump is the most divisive person we've had in politics since the Civil War. And it's not surprising that a jury would come back after, 10 hours or so of deliberation, guilty on all counts for crimes that, after 60 years of experience as a criminal lawyer, I still don't understand. I don't understand how you can resurrect a statute of limitation barred misdemeanor and turn it into a viable felony because maybe Trump thought when somebody signed a bookkeeping entry from a menu that the appropriate listing was legal expenses rather than something that's not on the menu, reimbursement for a non-disclosure agreement. How you can then turn that into a felony by saying, but at the time that somebody else did it, he must have intended to commit another crime. This was a foreordained verdict. And I very much worry about what this is going to mean for America. It's going to incentivize local prosecutors in red states and red cities of red states to bring fake charges against Democrats, against people running for president, against their, in this case, his son maybe, and against people running for other office, senators, congressmen. This is the opening battle in a war of courts, a war in which will be fought not at ballot boxes as much as in jury boxes. And so it's an extraordinarily dangerous development for America. As I said, it's worse for America than it is perhaps for Donald Trump. This may help Donald Trump get elected. Nobody knows. There are certainly going to be people out there who are going to say, oh, my God, I wasn't going to vote for Trump, but the way he has been treated, the way the justice system has gotten him, dealt with him, get Trump, I'm going to have to register a protest vote. There will probably be some who have the opposite view. Oh, he's been convicted of a felony. Can we really vote for a convicted felon? No, I think this has an undetermined implication for Donald Trump, but a terrible implication for America. This was not a well-tried case by the defense. They, I think, waived lots of issues that they could have made more of. The examinations were not what I would expect in a first-rate case. Trump has had a lot of trouble getting good lawyers, and I think he had to settle in this case for somebody who was nice to him, but who was relatively inexperienced in cases of this kind. So this is the beginning of a very, very dangerous trail. Where it ends up, nobody knows. Will it result in more prosecutions of this kind? I don't know. Already we saw after Trump was impeached, the Republicans try to get even by impeaching Mayorkas, an unconstitutional impeachment, both of them unconstitutional, but two unconstitutional wrongs don't make a constitutional right. They just make two wrongs. And the case here too will be dissected by legal scholars. If there are any legal scholars left who are sufficiently objective to be able to scrutinize this conviction honestly and neutrally. I have my doubts about that. But when the verdict came in, people cheered for either side. It was a little bit like the O.J. Simpson case. I remember that very vividly, where you had African Americans, not all, but many, cheering the verdict of acquittal, and many white people, not all, but many, bemoaning it. Here you have a similar reaction, not necessarily along racial or ethnic lines, but along partisan political lines. You have Trump supporters who are outraged by the verdict, and you have Biden supporters who support it. And then you have me, a Biden supporter. I voted for him in the last election. Don't know who I'm going to vote for in this election, but I've never voted for Donald Trump, who was outraged by this verdict, was outraged by the charges. Even if there had been an acquittal, I'd been outraged. The very fact that somebody is brought to trial on offenses of this kind diminishes our legal system considerably. And so a very sad day for America, a very sad day for our system of justice. We're not Stalin's Soviet Union. We're not Hitler's Nazi Germany. We're not Pinochet. We're not, but we're not China, and we're not Iraq, but we're close to some of the countries in South America, where one dictator once said, "For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law." And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see now the beginning. We've already seen it a little, but this is the low point, the initial low point. It will get lower, but this is the low point, where you have a man running for president of the United States and being charged with non-crimes and being convicted by 12 jurors who almost certainly don't want to see Trump be president. And of course, the judge said, "Oh, don't let personal views impact your decision." He didn't say don't let political views. He said don't let personal views. He didn't say anything about if you don't want him to be president. Even so, that wouldn't have a big impact on the jury. Juries decide what they're going to decide, and they decided this pretty quickly. There were some questions, to be sure. People wanted to go over the testimony, but the testimony that convicted him was testimony by Michael Cohen. And boy, would any of the jurors have bought a used car from Michael Cohen? I don't think so. But send a man to conviction and possible jail. I don't think he's going to jail, but a possible imprisonment based on the testimony of Michael Cohen. They were willing to do that because they wanted it to come out a certain way. The evidence in this case was such that if you want it to come out for an acquittal, you can find so many flaws and holes in the case that you can find reasonable doubt and acquittal. If you want it to come out for a conviction, well, then you have to believe Michael Cohen. There's no way around believing Michael Cohen and getting a conviction. Only Michael Cohen testified as to what Donald Trump's mental state was and whether he knew that the bookkeeping entry would be legal or retainer expenses rather than reimbursement for a non-disclosure agreement. That's the only testimony. There's no corroboration of that. And the prosecutor misled the jury. There'll be a strong appeal. I'm sure that Trump will find himself a pretty good appellate lawyer. If he calls me, I'm not going to take the case, but I could recommend some very, very good appellate lawyers and who could do as good a job as possible on this case, a far better job than was done by the trial lawyers in this case. But that doesn't guarantee a reversal. Do you know what the percentage of convictions, criminal convictions that are appealed are reversed? Far fewer than 10%. In some jurisdictions, far fewer than 5%. In some jurisdictions, in the area of 1 or 2%. Obviously, when you're the presidential candidate, the odds change. They may get higher and they may get lower. But there is absolutely no guarantee there'll be a reversal of this conviction, although it should be reversed. Obviously, there are so many errors in this case, just to start with the most obvious one. Prosecutor argued to the jury that it is a fact, not the law. It is a fact that paying of the hush money constituted an illegal campaign contribution. If it was a fact, then the judge had no authority to exclude an expert witness who would have testified to a different fact, who would have said, no, as a matter of fact, there was no crime committed here. The judge said, no, but it's not a question of fact, it's a question of law. And I'll decide that, but he allowed the prosecutor to say it's a question of fact. That in and of itself is a reversible error. There are so many other reversible errors in this case. That doesn't mean there'll be a reversal. This case is different. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that hard cases make bad law. Political cases also make bad law, and this is very much a political case. And so this being an improvised, a short response to a dramatic event that I've been talking about for a long time, I wanted to get it on the air so that people can respond. I'm not going to read any letters today. You can write me letters, however, and on the next show, whether it be tomorrow or next Monday, I will read your letters and get your reactions to what happened here today. But you have my reaction, and my reaction is not disappointment because I didn't expect any different result from this. If you want to read about why I think this case was predetermined to result in a conviction, read my book, Get Trump. You can't get it in bookstores because liberal bookstores won't sell a book named Get Trump, but you can get it on Amazon. And I think you will find that my discussion of this case, I have lengthy discussion of this particular case, is relevant to your consideration and predicted what would happen. And when people are saying, well, obviously this is a strong case, the jury convicted, they're just wrong. It's a weak case, yet the jury convicted. That makes the case even worse from a point of view of its impact on the rule of law. So 7 bananas, maybe 8 bananas. I'll take your votes on how many bananas we get. We're not going to get up to 10 yet. 10 is when you start putting your political enemies in gulags. We're not there, fortunately. We may get there, but we're not there at this point. But it's bad enough. It's bad enough. And this is really the first time in American history that the criminal justice system has been abused in so great a manner against the man running for president. And the abuse occurred by Democrats. I mean, that is the people who got Trump. Was an elected district attorney, Alvin Bragg. He's celebrating. He should be celebrating because a lot of people think he should have been disbarred for bringing this case or disciplined at least. He's not going to be because he's won the case, at least for now. And the sad part is that the victory may sustain itself because it's going to be very hard to get a reversal of the conviction in the appellate division, hard to get a reversal in the New York Court of Appeals, though possible. very possible to get a reversal if the Supreme Court were to take the case. The Supreme Court takes, what, 2% of cases, probably fewer than 1% of just criminal cases. So the likelihood of a Supreme Court review here is slight, and the likelihood of having the Supreme Court reverse the conviction before the election is virtually non-existent. So sad day for America. We'll recover. We're a strong country. Our Constitution will survive, but the Constitution and the rule of law has been weakened considerably today. So I appreciate your tuning in on this extra special account of the Der Show, and we'll be back soon with the next version of the Der Show, and at that point we'll take your letters. So please write to me and read Get Trump, and I think it'll give you greater insights into what happened here today. A terrible day for the rule of law. See ya.